We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Newshour, India's Voice to the World. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold bilateral talks with the visiting Brazilian President Lula da Silva, strengthening ties in trade, critical minerals, defence, energy and digital tech on agenda. India AI Impact Summit in New Delhi concludes with infrastructure-related investment that have crossed $250 billion, reflecting growing global confidence in India's AI infrastructure ecosystem. Expo to end today. Trump signs global 10% tariff on all countries hours after the Supreme Court ruled his levies on imports as illegal. Amid the growing tensions, Iran signals openness to diplomacy to prepare nuclear deal draft in trays as Trump considering limited military strike. And in sports, Super 8 matches of T20 Cricket World Cup begins. India to face South Africa on Sunday. And on to the details now. India is stepping into the next phase of its AI journey with AI Mission 2.0. Building on the momentum of the India AI Impact Summit, the government is now focusing on advanced foundational models, sovereign compute capacity and stronger safety frameworks. The message is clear. India aims to lead the future of responsible and high-performance artificial intelligence. Here's more in the report.
Artificial intelligence is redefining economies, governance and societies worldwide, and India is now firmly embedded in that transformation. Launched on February 16, the India AI Impact Summit brought together representatives from nearly 120 countries. Among the prominent attendees were French President Emmanuel Macron and Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, alongside heads of state and senior delegations from 20 nations.
This AI Impact Summit has been a grand success on many fronts. The quality of participation, the quality of dialogue was phenomenal. Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji's vision of Manav AI, which is AI of the humans, by the humans, for the humans. I think that was very well accepted.
The government termed the summit as a major success. As per official records, more than 500,000 people participated in the conference, and the level of discussions was of a very high quality. During the summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi presented his vision of human AI, which was widely appreciated. Many countries praised India's efforts towards building a responsible and inclusive global AI framework. 70 countries have supported the AI Summit outcome document, and the number is expected to reach 80. During the summit, announcements were made for investments worth $250 billion in AI infrastructure and $25 billion in venture capital funding. As part of the broader roadmap, government would soon begin work on AI Mission 2.0, a next-generation strategy aimed at building advanced foundational AI models, expanding common compute infrastructure, strengthening safety frameworks, and deepening capabilities across the entire AI stack. The mission will focus on developing sovereign, high-performance AI systems while ensuring responsible and ethical deployment.
We'll very soon start working on the AI Mission 2.0, which will be definitely bigger than what it was in the AI Mission 1.0. Many of the goals we had set for ourselves in the Mission 1.0 are on the verge of getting completed, and many of them
now
have
let's take you live where a ceremonial reception is being accorded to the Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. It's a moment of full diplomatic grandeur at the heart of the national capital. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva to be accorded a ceremonial reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi personally received President Lula at the forecourt along with the President. The ceremonial reception at the President's house to Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Brazilian leader being welcomed with full honors, a ceremonial guard of honor.
अब आया
We're getting you live visuals from the forecourt of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, where after a ceremonial guard of honor to the Brazilian president, now the formal introduction to the dignitaries is happening right now. President shaking hands with all the dignitaries, along with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Draupadi Murmu. Moment of full diplomatic grandeur at the heart of the national capital. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva being accorded the ceremonial reception at Rashtrapati Bhavan. Was received by the Prime Minister and President Draupadi Murmu. And now the Brazilian leader is meeting all the dignitaries at Rashtrapati Bhavan.
अभी आपकी जो प्रसारण देख रहे हैं राष्ट्रपति भवन से देख रहे हैं।
Well, the ceremonial reception sets the tone for high-level talks scheduled later in the day today. The leaders exchanged greetings as delegations from both the countries were also introduced. And now, on your screens, you can see a picture being taken of the three leaders. The visit signals a renewed momentum in India-Brazil partnership across trade, energy, defense, and above all, Global South cooperation. The high-level engagement is expected to further strengthen the strategic partnership between India and Brazil with a strong focus on expanding cooperation across key sectors. Discussions are expected to focus on enhancing trade and investment flows, securing cooperation in critical minerals, deepening defense collaboration, and expanding energy partnerships as well. All right, so you were watching live from the forecourt of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, where the Brazilian president, Lula da Silva, was being accorded a ceremonial reception. And moving on, the India AI Impact Summit Expo has been extended by a day till February 21st, citing an overwhelming response from the visitors and exhibitors. The summit was earlier scheduled to conclude on the 20th of February. And the year 2026 has been declared as India-France Year of Innovation. Safran AI, based in Paris, is a leader in artificial intelligence for aerospace and defense. In a big boost to Make in India, Safran and BEL have agreed to manufacture Hammer missiles in India. Sebastian Fabre, CEO, Safran AI, speaks exclusively with DD India correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh at AI Impact Summit in Delhi. Here's more.
Namaskar, we are at the India AI Impact Summit in New Delhi. I have with me Sebastian Fabre, CEO, Safran AI. Safran is leader in artificial intelligence in aerospace and defense. Sebastian, bonjour and welcome to DD India.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Right, and I want to tell you the importance of this conversation is also because The year 2026 has been recognized as the year of India-France Year of Innovation. Also, we've learnt about this joint venture that Safra and Bharati Electronics of India are going to get into to manufacture hammer missiles in India. Sebastian, shall we begin with that? If you can tell us a little about this very ambitious joint venture and your thoughts on this time-tested friendship between India and France.
Yes, it's one more step in France and India collaboration, as well as Safran collaboration in India. We've been in the country for 65 years. We've got more than 3,000 people working for Safran in the country, and we expect to double this over the next 4 to 5 years. So it is one more step in our collaboration, and we look forward to actually doing much more here.
Right, and from being a net importer of defense equipment, India is also rising up the ladder, getting into joint production opportunities. Your thoughts on the rise of Make in India and the expansion of AI and manufacturing ecosystem in the country?
Yep. So again, I think Make in India has been in our DNA, in our genes in Safran for many years. Yeah. When it comes to artificial intelligence, India is a leading country, and there are many actually Indian leaders on AI worldwide. So for us, it's really natural to collaborate with India on that topic. It's Make in India, but it's also co-constructing with corporations in India.
Right. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Emmanuel Macron held talks a few days ago. And now, what is your sense, if you look at the approach of these two leaders in particular, the manner in which they are shaping a global narrative on AI?
Yeah. I think it's very interesting to see the shape that has been given to this AI summit around sovereignty, around ethics, on how we can actually make AI good for all, which is very important to all of us. And we have strong expectations for this summit in terms of how government, university, corporations can work together, and how France and India will be role models in deploying those very strong values in AI.
Right. And how's been your experience at the AI summit so far? Do you feel at home here?
I would not say I feel at home, because we do feel in India, and it's really great in terms of cultural exchange. Yeah. But again, common values, very important. A lot of very interesting, encouraging progress with our colleagues from India. So very energized by this summit.
Sebastian, I'm also curious to learn from your expertise, of course. If you can give us some insights as to how is AI transforming the future of defense? What are future conflicts and warfare, for instance, likely to look like?
Yeah. So at Safran AI, we do multimodal AI for intelligence, defense, and industry, meaning we are developing systems that are trustworthy, on which people can team up with to be informed about a decision and take decision. That applies for intelligence, but also for industry, for instance, in terms of parts inspection, in terms of quality checks. So it's really a question of man and machine teaming. It's a question of also getting rid of tedious tasks for humans, and AI is very good at doing that. And it's also about improving quality, speed of production, so a lot of very positive impact.
And we know that this summit is witnessing a gathering of hundreds of entrepreneurs, young startups. What is that one advice that you'd like to share with them as they work towards finding solutions for the future?
And that's a very important one. I think 2025 shown a record year in terms of investment in AI. More than 50% of venture capital went to AI companies. But there's a shift as well from AI models to AI applications. Why AI applications? Because in the end, we need to solve true business issues. And my advice would be to focus less on AI technology, less on AI models, and focus more onto the day-to-day business problems that you want to solve with AI. And that's what we are doing on our side, again, helping intelligence analysts, defense people, and our industry colleagues to help with their day-to-day challenges with AI. I think that's the right way of taking AI.
And that's somewhat also the theme, central theme of this summit, isn't it? A people, planet, and progress, really humanizing the impact of AI.
Absolutely. minimizing the impact of AI, also taking care of what AI could do in terms of positive impact, but also thinking about where it could have negative impact and anticipating that with a strong framework around, again, sovereignty, around ethics.
On that note, Sebastian, thank you for speaking with DD India. Merci.
Thank you very much.
And moving on, the U.S. Supreme Court on Friday rejected Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs under a law meant for use in national emergencies are illegal. In a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court said that the tariff policies under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, that is IEEPA, are unconstitutional, officially striking down the global tariffs Trump had introduced since April. The justices ruled that the president did not have the authority under the IEEPA to impose import tariffs on goods from nearly all the U.S. trading partners. The voting upheld that it is the right of Congress to impose taxes, not the president. On the same day, Trump called the Supreme Court decision a disgrace to the country. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump imposed an additional 10% tariff on imports into the United States after the Supreme Court struck down many of his sweeping and often arbitrary duties. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said, "It is my great honor to have just signed from the Oval Office a global 10% tariff on all countries, which will be effective almost immediately." Also, Trump's announcement comes after the Supreme Court invalidated tariffs that had been imposed under the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Those earlier duties ranged from 10% to 50%.
Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122, over and above our normal tariffs already being charged.
Well, Trump also confirmed that his administration is launching new country-specific investigations under Section 301 of the 1974 Trade Act. Trump said these steps are to protect our country from unfair trading practices of other countries and companies. Trump suggested that even higher tariffs could follow. Earlier in the day, Trump told reporters he was using Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974 to bring in the fresh duties. The rarely used provision allows a president to impose tariffs of up to 15% for up to 150 days to address serious balance of payments issues. It does not require a lengthy investigation. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the new 10% tariff, along with possible actions under other trade laws, would ensure the tariff revenues remain largely unchanged in 2026. In the aftermath of U.S. Supreme Court's ruling against Trump's tariffs, Governor J.B. Pritzker sent Donald Trump an invoice on Friday demanding nearly $9 billion in tariff refunds for Illinois' families after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled the president's much-touted tariffs are illegal. Early on Friday, California Governor Gavin Newsom said the money Trump's tariffs had raised came from U.S. voters' pockets and should be refunded. Well, also, Iran and the United States are sliding rapidly towards military conflict as hopes fade for a diplomatic solution to their standoff over Tehran's nuclear program. Iran's Gulf neighbors and Israel now consider a conflict to be more likely than a settlement, with Washington building up one of its biggest military deployments in the region. Israel's government said Tehran and Washington are making preparations for possible joint military action, though no decision has been made yet on whether to carry out such an operation. Also, 2 rounds of Iran-US talks have stalled on core issues from uranium enrichment to missiles and sanctions relief. After talks in Geneva on Tuesday, Arakchi said the sides had agreed on guiding principles, but the White House said there was still distance between them. Iran is expected to submit a written proposal in the coming days, a U.S. official said, and Arakchi said on Friday he expected to have a draft counter proposal ready within days. But Trump warned Iran on Thursday it must make a deal over its nuclear program or really bad things will happen. U.S. officials say Trump has yet to make up his mind about using military force, although he acknowledged on Friday that he could order a limited strike to try to force Iran into a deal. Also, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is due to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on February 28 to discuss Iran. A senior U.S. official said it would be mid-March before all U.S. forces were in place. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said on Friday he expected to have a draft counter-proposal ready within days following nuclear talks with the United States this week. In an interview, Araghchi said he had a draft counter-proposal that could be ready for top Iranian officials to review in the next 2 or 3 days, with more U.S.-Iran talks possible in a week or so, while at the United Nations spokesperson Stephen Dujarric reiterated concerns about heightened rhetoric and increased military activities in the region. 2 U.S. officials said that U.S. military planning on Iran had reached an advanced stage if ordered by Trump. As Trump on Thursday gave Tehran a deadline of 10 to 15 days to make a deal to resolve their long-standing nuclear dispute. And moving on, the U.S. military struck a vessel in the Eastern Pacific, killing 3 men, the latest such incident in recent months. Footage released by U.S. Southern Command on X showed a strike on a military vessel. President Donald Trump's administration has touted its success at taking out suspected drug trafficking vessels in the area. The military said in a post on X the vessel was engaged in narco trafficking operations. Also, in a latest strike, at least 10 people were killed and 50 wounded in Israeli strikes in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley on Friday after the Israeli military said it had targeted Hezbollah sites in the Baalbek area. The strikes are among the deadliest reported in eastern Lebanon in recent weeks and risk testing a fragile U.S.-brokered ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, which has been strained by recurring accusations of violations. The Israeli military said in a statement that it struck Hezbollah command centers in the Baalbek area, part of eastern Lebanon's Bekaa Valley. Well, Israel and Hezbollah agreed to a U.S.-brokered ceasefire in 2024 intended to end more than a year of cross-border fire that culminated in Israeli strikes that weakened the Iran-aligned group. Since then, the sides have traded accusations of ceasefire violations. U.S. and Israeli officials have pressed Lebanese authorities to curb Hezbollah's arsenal, while Lebanese leaders have warned that broader Israeli strikes could further destabilize the country already battered by political and economic crisis. And in a show of solidarity with Cuba, residents of Mexico City are donating essential supplies like food, oil and medicines at a collection drive in the capital's main square as part of a week-long humanitarian aid campaign. The campaign, which began on February 14th, has already gathered around 10 tons of aid and will continue till February 22nd. Mexico has pledged assistance to Cuba after suspending oil exports following U.S. tariff threats on countries supplying fuel to the island. And Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has threatened to veto the European Union's $106 billion loan to Ukraine over stalled Russian oil deliveries. Now, the dispute centers on the Druzhba pipeline damaged during a Russian attack in January, halting supplies to Hungary and Slovakia. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico declared a state of emergency and warned of retaliatory steps if flows are not restored. However, Slovakia says oil transit may resume by February 24th. Budapest and Bratislava accuse Kyiv of political blackmail amid tensions over Ukraine's EU membership bid. The European Parliament had approved the financial package early this month to support Ukraine's war effort. And moving on, Bangladesh paid solemn homage to the martyrs of the 1952 language movement as President Mohammad Shahabuddin and Prime Minister Tariq Rahman led the nation in observing Amar Akushe and International Mother Language Day. The President placed the first wreath at the central Shahid Minar, followed by the Prime Minister minutes later. Special prayers were offered seeking eternal peace for the martyrs of 21st February 1952 who were killed by the bullets of Pakistani forces for demanding the rightful place for Bangla in the then East Pakistan. In separate messages, the President and the Prime Minister emphasized preserving linguistic diversity and upholding the dignity of Bangla. The Prime Minister recalled the sacrifice of the martyrs, saying, Akushe stands as an enduring chapter of national history and democratic aspiration. The day is observed worldwide as UNESCO declared International Mother Language Day, recognizing Bangladesh's historic struggle for linguistic rights. And in Sri Lanka, the High Commission of India held a festival of Carnatic music, the Tyagaraja Aradhana at Saraswati Hall in Colombo. The festival is an annual Aradhana of Telugu saint composer Tyagaraj. Saint Tyagaraj attained Jiva Samadhi in Thanjavur district of Tamil Nadu. The evening witnessed rendering of the saint's Pancharatna Kritis by musicians from India and Sri Lanka. Speaking about the influence of Carnatic music, High Commissioner of India Santosh Jha noted that Carnatic music has been one of the deepest cultural bonds that India shares with Sri Lanka.
When we talk about the tradition of Carnatic music, I think we must, sitting here in Sri Lanka, acknowledge that it is one of our deepest bonds, the cultural bonds that we share over many centuries. This is the classical music that belongs to India as much as belongs to Sri Lanka. And this is the thread that binds us. And this annual festival brings together the musicians from the two countries to celebrate our shared heritage.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world today. Mexican artist Pedro Reyes showcased his international project Assam in Mexico City, transforming confiscated firearms into musical instruments for an immersive exhibition. The installation features repurposed pistols, rifles and machine guns that perform music for the visitors. Lunar New Year in Vietnam marks the Year of the Horse, which is a symbol of dedication, loyalty and steadfast support. Inspired by its spirit, young artists are reimagining the horse through workshops and artworks that celebrate Vietnamese cultural heritage. Beyond honoring tradition, their creations also strive to build a brighter future for the community by supporting disadvantaged children. Turkish-born designer Bora Aksu unveiled his autumn-winter collection at London Fashion Week, drawing inspiration from an 18th century ghost story for his latest designs featuring lace dresses, veils and floral patterns. Time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar today met the visiting Brazil's President Lula da Silva in New Delhi. Dr. Jaishankar deeply appreciated Brazilian President's warm sentiments and guidance on advancing strategic partnership between the two countries. The Indian minister also showed confidence that President Lula's meetings with PM Narendra Modi later today will impart a new momentum to the ties. Well, India hosted the first major AI summit of the Global South. In an exclusive conversation with DD India correspondent Shumendu Ghosh, Ivana Bertolotti, Vice President Wipro, shares her thoughts on issues of trust, accountability and responsibility in the use of AI and emerging technologies. She is bullish around India's potential in AI and also gives an interesting perspective on the intersection of technology and gender. Here's more.
We are at India AI Impact Summit in Bharat Mandapam, New Delhi. I have with me Ivana Bertolotti, Vice President and Global Chief Privacy and AI Governance, Wipro. Ivana, welcome to New Delhi and DD India.
Thank you so much. Very nice to be here.
Right. Now, Ivana, first, your experience of the India AI Summit, what did you like? What caught your attention?
It was a really good experience. I have been to previous summits. But this time, what was really noticeable was the openness and the fact that having students in the room was really, really nice. And I've had young students and their parents, wanting me to talk to their students, their children, and all these conversations. I think the openness was really something that I value.
Right. Ivana, now we understand that India has established itself as a major IT power in the world. You're from Wipro, which is an important Indian multinational. But what is your assessment of the manner in which India is making its presence felt in the global AI ecosystem?
Yeah, I think India has a unique alignment at the moment, which is the alignment between the capacity of running huge projects at scale, which are really big value, like digital public infrastructure, like UPI. So this capacity of running something as big for 1.4 billion people and do it timely is really something impressive. So the alignment between this and the appetite for innovation that people have in this country, especially the young generation, and in fact you have a lot of startups and young people, entrepreneurs, is really very important. So I think this alignment, coupled with the pragmatism of the government to open to international companies working here, whilst at the same time pushing for local applications that work for the local people with the message of developing here but serving the world. I think all of this is a great combination for success.
Right. Ivana, I learned about you having co-founded a group called Women Leading in AI Network. Just to inform you, it is a lobby for women from different backgrounds in the domain of technology. I'm curious to ask, what kind of intersection do we see as far as gender and technology are concerned?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So what we are seeing is Women Leading in AI was founded because we realized that artificial intelligence could obviously benefit women a lot, but only if women were in the driving seat. And by this, I do not only mean women who code technology, but I also mean women at the heart of where the decisions around artificial intelligence and the future of humanity are made. And this is because what we started to see is that artificial intelligence uses data, and data is not neutral. It's a mirror of society as it is. Right. It represents the stratification of inequalities and gender stereotypes. So once this data is taken and ingested into algorithms making decisions, that replicates the bias in society. So what we wanted to do with Women Leading in AI was, yes, AI can be fantastic for women, but we have to really be in the driving seat.
You deal with, in your work, I understand, with themes of trust, accountability, responsibility as far as intelligent AI systems are concerned. Makes me curious to ask, do these intelligence systems also require a sort of upbringing as humans do?
Well, artificial and human intelligence are very, very different. Artificial intelligence is a statistical process, whilst human intelligence is consequential. So the beauty of these two working together offers a lot of possibilities that we have to nurture. But the important thing is, as you say, you mentioned the word trust. And the problem is you want people to trust these tools and use them. So, of course, a lot of companies now are saying, hey, we want to innovate. But in order to innovate, we have to make sure that trust, the resilience, security, legal protections are all embedded into the design so that we can have tools that are there in the long term and bring economic value. So trust is, of course, is a nice thing to have, but trust is also about performance.
Sure.
It's also about long-term value. So these things are very important, and especially now that we have things like agentic AI, where you have to have human intervention, you have to have solid security. So it's really, I think, companies that have governance of AI as a strategic capabilities, they're the ones who are going to have a real cutting edge in the world.
Right. In the same context, Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India speaks about how artificial intelligence, AI, represents an inflection point for human civilization. And there's a transformative potential, but there are also ways in which it has the capacity to threaten the foundations of society, human societies. I mean, how do you see his perspective and approach to AI in that matter?
I think his speech yesterday was really, really important. And I say this because not only because this is the first summit to be held in the Global South. And look, this is not a secondary matter. This is absolutely important. And as a country in the Global South, India knows that it could go either way. India knows very well that, yes, AI has the tremendous potential to improve everybody's life and to make us feel better, to make us have a more fulfilling life whilst we have autonomous systems doing the most menial tasks for us. But every time that there are big transformations like this, they go to the core of the world, the core to what binds us together. And this has to be driven in the right way.
Sure.
So it's really about leadership. It's really about driving this so the society benefits. And this is the challenge that we have ahead of us. I think Modi has defined that path really well. Now it's about how the world takes it up.
Right.
And now we're able to really fulfill the promises that we made in the summit.
Right. Ivana, finally, the hundreds of young innovators, the students here who've gathered, as they try to articulate the future, which is going to be driven by AI in many ways, what is your message for them, especially young girls and women among them?
100%. I would say build AI solutions for good. Build AI solutions that can improve the way that we are, the way that we live, the way we can enjoy each other. Because I think we've come from an economy of attention. We've all been glued to social media. And now is the time to use AI, to use artificial intelligence to discover our humanity. So my message to young entrepreneurs is really use the artificial to really bring up the best of humanity.
Wonderful. On that note, Ivana Bartoletti, thank you for speaking with me.
Thanks to you.
Well, the cybersecurity world is as much in a need for regulation as the world of AI. Both under the ambit of rapidly growing technology are proving to be the game changers. In this context, Alok Gupta, founder and CEO of Pyramid Cybersecurity, says that the AI summit comes at the right time with a lot of promise. Listen in.
We have with us Mr. Alok Gupta, who is the founder and CEO of Pyramid Cybersecurity. So thank you so much for joining us here exclusively on DD India. When we talk about the India AI Impact Summit, what do you take away from this particular summit, and especially when we talk about cybersecurity?
Yeah, thank you, Deepika, first for having me here. Well, this is one of the massive, conclave or, an event which I have attended for the first time globally. Because, you have seen leaders coming in from, various countries. You have seen the AI innovators. You see, companies which are leveraging AI in a big way. And then you see a lot of, startups which are here, so if you look at the India AI mission, it talks about democratizing AI for India. And I think that's a great thing. And this is where I see that this dream is actually coming to fruition now.
And so many leaders came yesterday to India, and they were discussing and deliberating on how we can use AI in a positive manner and considering its ethical usage as well. When we talk about that perspective, how do you think where India is going?
So I think since we are a little late in this, in the sense that we have not caught up to the way the America or China has got into this, we can actually prevent the biases to happen. We can actually prevent the hallucinations to happen. So we can do the AI first time right. And that's where I think the foundational models need to, work well. So I guess, the ethics in AI is a very important topic, both ethics and privacy, because with the new DPDP law in the country, it is very important for, not just the humans to follow it, but also AI to follow the privacy of people.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Gupta, for joining us. And there you heard a very quick word from Mr. Alok Gupta on how the Impact Summit comes at the very right moment. This is the best moment when we talk about AI, its regulation, and AI for global good, considering economic prosperity as well. Thank you so much for joining us right now. Namaskar.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will participate in the groundbreaking ceremony of the HCL Foxconn joint venture project, India Chip Private Limited, in Uttar Pradesh via video conferencing. The establishment of the HCL Foxconn semiconductor facility marks a significant milestone in India's journey towards technological self-reliance. The project is aligned with the government's efforts to strengthen domestic manufacturing capabilities, reduce import dependence, and build resilient global supply chains. It is expected to play a crucial role in supporting key sectors such as automotive, consumer electronics, and other devices. Through this initiative, India's semiconductor ecosystem will receive a major boost, fostering innovation, skill development, and technology transfer. The facility is also expected to create thousands of direct and indirect employment opportunities. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Meerut, a city in Uttar Pradesh, on 22nd of February. Prime Minister to flag off Meerut Metro and Namo Bharat train at Shatabdi Nagar Namo Bharat station. From there, he will undertake metro ride till Meerut South station. Later, Prime Minister will inaugurate and dedicate to the nation various development projects worth around 12,930 crore rupees in Meerut. With a design speed of 180 kilometers per hour, Namo Bharat is India's first regional rapid transit system. It will connect major urban centers such as Sahibabad, Ghaziabad, Modinagar and Meerut with Delhi at a faster pace. Prime Minister will also inaugurate Meerut Metro services operating on the same infrastructure as Namo Bharat in a first-of-its-kind initiative in the country. Well, these projects will provide further impetus to Prime Minister's vision of transforming urban mobility and ensuring seamless, efficient, modern and sustainable public transport systems that improve ease of living for the citizens. And moving on, India's Deputy Permanent Representative to the UN Ambassador Yojana Patel delivered statement at the Intergovernmental Negotiations on UN Security Council reforms focused on categories of membership. Ambassador Yojana Patel said the Council has failed to meet core responsibilities on peace and security. She emphasized that reforms must include expansion of permanent membership, saying that without it, the process would be incomplete. Patel rejected proposals that introduce the third category, saying they risk pushing real reform decades into the future. She also insisted that any restructuring must correct, not worsen, existing imbalances.
Any reform that does not result in the expansion of the permanent category would be incomplete, unjust, and ignorant of the aspirations of an overwhelming number of member states, particularly those who are reform-centric. Second, the need for expansion of both categories is self-evident. The number of permanent to non-permanent members changed from 5 versus 6 to 5 versus 10 during the only marginal reform of the Council more than 6 decades ago. Even then, there was no expansion in the permanent category. This resulted in accentuating the imbalance between the two categories, disproportionately enhancing the salience of the permanent category. Consideration of a third category is a red herring that is intended to delay the process further and derail the path towards reform entirely, or deliberately seek a suboptimal outcome that would push real reform many decades into the future to the detriment of the legitimacy, credibility, and relevance of the UN. India has always approached IGN in a forward-leaning and flexible manner in order to realize the vision of real reforms.
All right, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. India's Super 8 campaign at the T20 World Cup begins with a blockbuster contest with South Africa in Ahmedabad on Sunday. The high-voltage clash between the top finalists of the 2024 edition will be played at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. Both India and South Africa managed to win all 4 matches played in the group stage, and they will be eager to extend their winning run to 5 matches. India advanced to the second phase with wins over the USA, Namibia, Pakistan and the Netherlands. On the other hand, South Africa topped their group with a clean sweep of victories, but India won a 5-match T20 international series against them in December 2025 and also defeated them in a warm-up fixture before this tournament. With both teams in top gear, the encounter is shaping up to be one of the high-octane clash of the Super 8 stage. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.